over the top, but underneath throws in missed tackles like that.
Well, one thing you saw Northwestern do a lot of is crossing routes. They called them drive and mesh, shallow cross concepts. That's just all football jargon for guys crossing the field, and it picks off defenders. Now, that wasn't necessarily the case on that particular play, but so far in this game, Penn State's utilized that throughout the course of the game in the passing routes and concepts they've utilized.
Connor Hayward looked a little bit like his daddy last time he returned it. Ironhead Hayward. Lowering the shoulder on the kicker, Tyler Davis. Here he comes from the goal line. Out to the 24. Penn State taking the lead in this one in a season where they breezed through the start. Blowout wins against Akron and Georgia State, like you'd expect. And a bit closer in Iowa City with a walk-off win. The touchdown for Jawan Johnson as time expired. The defense started to show up. Was #1 in the country before the Ohio State game. Part of that was shutting down Michigan in a dominant game, 42-13. The heartbreaking loss last week. They led 21-3 early. Looked like it might be a blowout. And even early in the fourth quarter led 35-20. They bring pressure out of the secondary. Lewerke trying to beat it to the sideline. And it is incomplete. Tristan Jackson couldn't get a foot down. 2nd and 10.
This was close. Just couldn't get the toe in bounds. As you could see, it clearly hit on the white.
Can't throw it much better than that.
No. And that's not easy to see as a quarterback. They brought, again, a pressure, the snap of the football. Penn State likes to do that. So you have to think after the snap and deal with it in a short time.
Pressure again for the Nittany Lions. Felton Davis into the vacated area for a Michigan State first down on already his 4th reception of the first quarter.
And that's how you calm a defense from pressuring you. Once you get a blitz, you hit a quick answer on the inside for a big gain. All of a sudden, it scares off the defensive coordinator sometimes.
The Michigan State staff thought they were going to have an opportunity to hit some shots downfield, hit some balls in the quick game with how frequently Penn State does pressure. And so far, so good in that regard. Brian Lewerke in the first quarter, 9 for 12 with more than 100 yards. Through with a quarter in East Lansing, and we've got a good one going in this top 25 matchup to open November. Penn State 14, Michigan State 7, 2nd quarter coming up. Aerial coverage of today's game being brought to you by our good neighbors at State Farm. State Farm is here to help life go right. On to the 2nd quarter in East Lansing, your first quarter stats. 1 week after Penn State managed only 283 yards total, they've got almost 200 through the quarter today. Brian Lewerke to the sideline. There's Darrell Stewart. Stopping and starting, running to the 45, and time for a game break with Sam Farber.
Joe, Wisconsin, one of 4 remaining undefeated teams, not feeling the love from the committee. They're ranked 9th, not feeling a lot of love in Indiana. Till this, they're down 10-0, and then Alex Hornibrook hit a wide-open Alec Ingold 18-yard touchdown. Now 10-7 Hoosiers leading in the first half. Joe and Brady.
They are not the first team, Wisconsin that is, to see that Indiana's an improved program. Right now, good enough to give everybody problems, just trying to break through against the top opponent.
You know, a couple undefeated teams pretty upset about those initial rankings from the College Football Playoff Committee. Wisconsin and Miami. I think if they both win out, I think they'll be okay.
Second down and a yard. Lewerke making a call at the line of scrimmage. Fake it to Scott. Sets up deep. In trouble and sacked. All the way back at the 45-yard line.
Well, Michigan State was able to sniff out that they're going to bring a pressure. It was going to be a post-side safety look, meaning Lewerke was saying, all right, we don't want to run against this look. Let's check to a pass. But good coverage by the Penn State secondary. Nowhere for Lewerke to go with the football. And then it's really, he's looking for L.J. Scott, who never releases. See how he's right there behind him? He never gets out into his pass route, so you don't have any outlet. And that's typically when or what you define as a coverage sack.
Yetur Gross-Matos, beneficiary of that coverage. They go from 2nd and 1 to 3rd and 10. A toss to Scott, breaks a tackle, and then is swallowed at the line of scrimmage. Penn State all over it on a bit of a curious call on 3rd and 10. The crowd here at Spartan Stadium agrees with that.
And continually, Penn State keeps bringing pressure. They find ways of getting free rushers, whether it's at Lewerke or in this case, L.J. Scott. You can see right from the get-go, that play really didn't have much of a chance. L.J. Scott was fortunate just to get back to the line of scrimmage.
I mean, Brian Lewerke's 10 of 13. They've been gashing them down the seams, and they run that.
And the interesting thing is when you look at how good they threw the football last week, Michigan State coaching staff talked about not being too stubborn and wanting to run the football and going that direction, so kind of surprising.
Fair catch made by Tompkins on a punt of 34 yards. Penn State trying to bounce back from that heartbreaker last week. The offense rolling. They're up 14-7. Fox College Football is sponsored by Kia. Hurry in during Kia's Light Up the Holidays sales event. Offers end soon. And by Discover Card, the official credit card of the Big Ten Conference. Penn State has it coming out of this break. 19 of the 24 plays they've run so far have been pass plays.
After that early interception, this Penn State offense has responded nicely. And if you were concerned, like the players talked about in their players-only meeting after the loss to Ohio State, about letting a team beat you twice, that has been the case. The Nittany Lions have pounced on Michigan State so far in this game.
That was their first regular season loss in more than a year in Columbus last week. First down play action. McSorley slides in the pocket. Tompkins comes back to the ball and gets upended after a gain of 8. Joe Bocci drilled him. Here to be 2nd and 2.
Michigan State is forcing Trace McSorley to throw these outside routes, the out-breaking routes. They're the most difficult to throw as a quarterback. And so far, McSorley's answering.
Look at that hit from Bocci. Huh? Joe Bocci, sophomore out of Ohio. What a season he's having. Took the red shirt off midway through last year and having a breakout year here as a sophomore. Quickly into the flats they go. And a first down to the backup tight end, Jonathan Holland. Only his 3rd reception of the season. So first down for Penn State, coached by James Franklin. His 4th season as the head man of the Nittany Lions. You know, he's never won a top 25 road game. That is here or at Vanderbilt. He's 0-9 in his career in these games. Trying to get one today over the 24th ranked Spartans. Miles Sanders in the game at running back. He swings out. McSorley steps up and gets crushed on a loss of 3. Williams and Cooper sandwich him. 2nd and 13.
That's been the biggest improvement from last year to this year for the Michigan State defense. Only 11 sacks in 2016, 19 already coming into this game, but it's the sacks and the negative plays, the tackles for loss. This defensive front has improved mightily from what they were a year ago.
Second down 12. They dump it off. Gesicki. Dowell is waiting for him. He gets only 3, 3rd and 9.
Talked about it. I mean, the play calling thus far has all been around the passing game. They've tried to find easy ways of getting Barkley and Gesicki the football, but eventually you're going to have to start taking more shots down the field and stretching the field if you keep putting yourself in 3rd and long scenarios.
That's something Penn State's been known for, those downfield shots. 3rd down 9. Barkley back in the game at running back after Sanders was in there for a couple of plays. Spartans bringing the house. McSorley retreating off his back foot. It's caught, but quickly pulled down. Justin Lane with a stop on Irvin Charles, and it's 4th down.
One of the things that Saquon Barkley doesn't get enough appreciation for, his ability to protect. You talk about him running, catching the football, his kickoff returns. Look at that. The Michigan State defense, they bring the pressure, They're able to answer. They can get off the field now, get the ball back to their offense. See if they can get back in the end zone.
First time they forced a punt today. One of the game-changing plays at Ohio State last week. Blake Gillikin had a punt blocked. It's a line drive here that Cody White takes at the 15. Nowhere to go. Charles with a stop one play after he had a reception. The Spartans down 14-7 have the ball after this break. Fox College Football is sponsored by Progressive Insurance, handing off big savings to you. Back here at Spartan Stadium. Didn't have a ton of high expectations coming into this year. Mike Antonio's team last year was 3-9. They got off to the 2-1 start and then started Big Ten play 4-0, beating their rival in Ann Arbor 14-10. Prior to the heartbreaking loss last week in triple overtime. They've all been close, win or lose. All the conference games decided by a touchdown or less. Just made an announcement here that there's lightning in the area. They're monitoring the situation. First down and 10 for Brian Lewerke and the Michigan State offense. Over the top, Felton Davis, broken up and incomplete. Coverage from Tariq Castro Fields, a freshman from Maryland, as they went over the top for the 6'4" Davis.
Looking at the size advantage, Davis tries to get up for the football, but credit Castro Fields. He turns back, tries to find the football and get a hand on it. Well played by a true freshman. Usually it takes a while for guys to get that sort of experience playing at the college football level, but it's transitioned nicely for Penn State.
Another throw for Lewerke. This one in the quick game, and it's Cody White, his second drop of the day. Although Laurier had a hand in on it. Third down.
You're seeing Penn State bring pressure, and what it's doing is it's forcing Lewerke to get the ball out of his hand quickly. So really it's the Penn State defense dictating to the Michigan State offense. And until Michigan State can hit them with some bigger plays downfield, they'll continue to keep bringing those pressures, and they'll settle for some easy completion here or there as long as it's not a big play.
They're down at 10. A twist up front. Lewerke steps into a collapsing pocket. Throws on the move for Darrell Stewart. And a Michigan State first down. Brian Lewerke with his athleticism buys time and dumps it off for a gain of 24.
This is the thing that makes him so dangerous, his ability to extend plays. And he can run, but he keeps his eyes downfield so he can find Stewart.
A big third down conversion. They look to throw again. Felton Davis has room. First down into Penn State territory.
Once this offense gets rolling and Lewerke gets a feel for things, they start spreading the football around, but they'll start finding the hot hands. And typically it's Felton Davis, number 18, and number 25, Darrell Stewart.
Typically, when you think Michigan State, Penn State, traditionally, you don't think of the ball flying all over the place, but that's what it's been so far. Back to the ground here, L.J. Scott. Lowering the shoulders, spinning his way for a nice first down gain, and we go down to Bruce.
Guys, even though Brian Lewerke's from Arizona, he wasn't too worried about playing in rainy weather and cold like we got today. He said he's already had to deal with messy conditions in games they played against Minnesota and Michigan, and he pointed out, hey, I got really big hands. He offered up that his hands have been measured at 10 1/4 inches, which is actually bigger than 15 of the 16 quarterbacks at the NFL Combine last winter.
And the reason why that matters is obviously it helps you get a better grip on the football, so it's not as hard to throw in wet weather.
He's rolling out here and throwing one to the sideline. It is spot on, but incomplete. Tristan Jackson, the intended receiver.
It looked close. Did he have control?
The ruling on the field is an incomplete pass. Third down.
No.
And that's a great call in real time by the officials over there on the far sideline.
The fans obviously are upset, but I think as they see the rest of the replay here, and it's East Lansing, they'll come to that realization as well.
It's a ball that's got to be caught.
They're still waiting for Tristan Jackson to kind of step up. A sophomore, is a converted high school quarterback. It's seen that
ruling that
breakout
fields
game.
an incomplete pass. Plays under further review.
They're going to take another look at this one, although especially with the call being incomplete, don't figure there's much of a chance this one's overturned. Trishan Jackson had a huge spring game, and they thought that he could be one of the lead guys entering the season. Had to replace a lot at receiver. Only 9 catches for him for through the first 8 games. 7:58 left in this second quarter. This play is under review and gives us a chance for the first time today to bring in Mike Pereira. Mike, good to talk to you. How's it going?
It is great here in LA. We're watching this game with David Whitvote, the replay official, taking a look at this, but the ball's coming loose. He really never has total possession of the ball, and then of course as he go into the ground it comes out. So really, you know, ought to be a quick confirmation that it is an incomplete pass.
As always, Mike, good to have you along.
This was a review due to the weather situation. We need to interrupt the game for a weather delay.
Where are we on that one, Mike?
How about that one? That one tricked me.
All right.
The old weather review.
It is the incomplete pass. Third down.
So lightning in the area, and they will escort the teams off of the field. A weather delay in this one. We knew there was a chance of rain. It wasn't until the last few minutes that they started talking about big chance for the Lightning. All right, Mike, but it's not like you don't know anything about what this situation means. What are we seeing here with this Lightning?
Well, you're really looking at the fact is you now go to the guidelines in the NCAA rulebook, and it's basically 30 seconds. So if you see a flash of lightning and then you hear a clap of thunder within 30 seconds, that's the basic indicator that you want to get the teams off the field and the fans to a safe place. Now, what they will do once they can then go 30 minutes without seeing any lightning and hearing any corresponding thunder, then they'll bring the teams back on the field. So I would assume that we're looking at what possibly could be in excess of a 30-minute delay.
All right, Mike, we appreciate you filling in. We brought you on for a replay review on what we thought was a catch or not. You turned into a meteorologist for us.
Mike can do it all, though. Mike, I want to ask about an earlier call. We didn't have the opportunity to bring you in just with the pace of play, but I'm not sure if you saw the Gesicki catch that it looked like his heel had hit out of bounds, but then they ended up calling it a catch. It was called that on the field. Just not enough in your mind to overturn that call?
You know, as we have been seeing in the NFL, we're seeing plays that are getting overturned without clear and obvious evidence. And I think David Whitvote did a good job here because as I watched it, and I think you too, both of you, that, you know, I think the heel might be on the sideline, but without really a clear down the line shot, it's really hard to tell because when you look from the outside looking in, it makes it look like the foot might be inbounds, but inside looking out is a totally different look. So absent a down-the-line shot, which is very difficult to get, I think he did the right thing in staying with the call, although I think the heel was probably out of bounds. But I've always said, if I think something might be that's not enough to overturn it.
Mike, as always, appreciate it. I'm sure we'll talk to you more as the day goes on.
You got it.
All right, so officially in a weather delay here in East Lansing. And again, as he told you, every lightning strike, you've got to tack on 30 minutes to the delay. That's kind of the fundamental way to look at it. 15-mile radius. You've got to have the lightning outside that before you look at moving forward.
Hunkered down for a long time. Some guys took naps, other players just stretched out. What they did do, there was about 120 Chick-fil-A sandwiches that were brought in from Penn State. For Michigan State, it was about the same amount for Potbellies. Penn State went out and bought about $500 worth of protein bars and produce just to keep energized and hydrated. they had a chance to basically lay out. These locker rooms here at Michigan State were renovated back in 2014. When I talked to the staffs here, they said, you know what? These guys were so fired up just to get out because they thought they were going to get on the field till 5:30. The loudest roar of the day was in that Penn State locker room when they found out we were getting on the field and the game was going to start about an hour early. It sounded like a bunch of wild dogs in there. One of the staffers said the energy went from about 0 to 1,000 in there. These guys are fired up. The field's a little soggy, but they really haven't had to change many of the cleats because they were already in their high grass cleats.
All right, Bruce, and interesting atmosphere now. It is pretty much empty, but the folks that are here are revved up and ready to go midway through the second quarter. And like you said, right into a big spot. 3rd down and 4 for Michigan State at the Penn State 37.
And neither team has necessarily been great on 3rd down so far today. Michigan State, though, has been better, converting 3 of 5 so far early in this game.
Brian Lewerke, 12 of 18 through the air for 159 yards. Both teams leaned heavily on the pass. It'll be interesting to see if that changes with the sloppy conditions and now extra wet ball. After 3 hours and 23 minutes, Lewerke's pressured, hits the crosser. It's the tight end, Matt Sokol, who's able to hang on, but is cut down a yard short by Marcus Allen. So 4th down and 1.
Even with the weather delay, Penn State continues to bring pressure to Brian Lewerke. He's got white paint all over him from getting hit and knocked down on midfield. Now with a 4th and 1, this is where you're going to want to rely on your running game, a big back like L.J. Scott to go ahead and get you that 1st down.
6'1", 230 pounds. You can see how soaked Lewerke is after that first hit. On 4th down and 1, here comes Scott, hit in the backfield, and he's short. Penn State comes up with a stop to establish the first bit of momentum out of this long delay.
And the man who got beat for Michigan State is number 94 right there. That's Chase Giannakakos. And you can see Cole Farmer beats him to the inside. He's able to get to L.J. Scott before he can get any momentum whatsoever. That's a huge stop for Penn State and really gaining some of that momentum after a long delay.
Well, Farmer, who's coming off his best game at Ohio State last week, gets the ball back to Trace McSorley in this offense. Now, the Nittany Lions were held to 283 total yards against Ohio State. They already have 215 in this one. Saquon Barkley. Nowhere to go with a stop coming from Demetrius Cooper. Barkley, who was slowed down by Ohio State last week, now has 1 yard on 4 carries.
Penn State hasn't tried to run the football that much. I mean, they've only got 7 rushing attempts this far in the game. And they've really relied more heavily on the pass. The question becomes, how's that going to affect them down the road when they have to try to convert on 3rd down, because they're 1 for 4 so far on the day.
2nd and 10. McSorley back to the air. Lets it go. Sean Hamilton was squeezed between those safeties. The throw out in front of it. It's 3rd down.
The hardest thing to do when you've got a weather delay is also to mentally prepare yourself to get back into that game mode after such a long delay. Get your body, your feet working in unison with one another.
No gain on 1st down, then the incomplete pass and 3rd and 10. Spartans show pressure and bring 5. McSorley all day to throw. This is where he's at his best. Lofty one for Barkley. He makes the catch, but then drops it. Had it in the breadbasket, but popped out, and it's 4th down.
Well, he wanted Deshaun Hamilton. You're going to see his eyes work to that area of the field. He's waiting on number 5 coming across. But Michigan State with great coverage as McSorley tries to create. Barkley just can't hold on to the football. Tremendous pass breakup by Brandon Randall. It's a guy who typically plays D-end and outside linebacker for Michigan State.
Always interesting to watch special teams when the conditions deteriorate like this. Blake Gillikin to kick it. Cody White, who muffed one last week, has a fair catch and a clean catch around the 30-yard line. We're back at it here in East Lansing after 3 hours and 23 minutes of delay time. Michigan State and Penn State rolls on when you come back. Big Ten standings presented by Discover, and of course be sure to tune in to the Big Ten championship game presented by Discover on December 2nd on Fox.
Nice win by Wisconsin today over Indiana, pulling away close there in the first quarter, but pretty dominant win. And once again, Michigan State, if they win out, they would be your Big Ten East division champion.
Of course, this one against the top 10 team this week. Ohio State due next against the Spartans. Here's a straight ahead run for Gerald Holmes, his first carry of the day. Michigan State continuing to search for somebody to take hold of this running back spot. They figured the ground game would be a strength this year, but L.J. Scott, Andre London, Gerald Holmes, none of them really take it off so far behind this young offensive line.
L.J. Scott probably has the most ability of any running back in the backfield. Had a great game versus Minnesota, but just hasn't seen the consistency. And talked earlier, a lot of fumbling problems really for this entire backfield for Michigan State.
That Minnesota game you mentioned, the only game where they've had a good ground game. Lewerke steps up and throws for White. That'll bring a penalty flag and interference on Christian Campbell.
Pass interference, defense number 1. The ball be placed at the spot of the foul. Automatic first down.
Boy, Brian Lewerke took a shot on this play, but right before he got the ball off, you see Penn State. And that's number 30, Kevin Givens, getting to him. Givens, who's playing for the injured Ryan Buchholz, typically a defensive tackle. They move him outside sometimes to a D end. See the tug there by Christian Campbell.
So first down at the 45. Penn State shows pressure. Holmes off the right side, and that is Givens with the tackle. 6'1", 287-pound sophomore who arrived at Penn State as a running back and a linebacker. Then put on some weight, moved the defensive end, and like you mentioned today, moved the defensive tackle, and then back out to him with the Buchholz injury. Second and 10 for Michigan State. Lewerke scrambles out of the pocket. He can run and crosses midfield on a gain of 6.
That's really the X factor for this Michigan State offense is Brian Lewerke and his ability to be able to scramble and pick up additional yards with his legs. It's something different than Michigan State's had at quarterback. If you go back through the years where it was Kirk Cousins, Connor Cook, Brian Hoyer. These guys typically are traditionally more pocket passers. Lewerke's much more willing to take off if he gets some space.
We mentioned those 3 running backs. They want one of them to take hold. Well, Lewerke is the second leading rusher on this Spartan team. They dump it out against pressure and room to run for Gerald Holmes. Stays in bounds. No, they'll say he stepped out at the 33-yard line. But plenty room for a first down.
We've seen this a number of times. He's going to sneak out, and you're going to see a cross-dog blitz. One of these 2 linebackers has to be responsible for the running back. Otherwise, he's running out in free space. We saw this early in the first quarter. L.J. Scott had a couple opportunities free releasing, getting out into space. Penn State's going to have to make an adjustment on the defensive side of the ball.
It's a Penn State team that entered the Ohio State game #1 in the country defensively, then gave up 39 to J.T. Barrett and the Buckeyes. They bring a motion man and fake it to him. Lewerke sets up. Felton Davis end zone. Diving catch. Touchdown, Michigan State.
It was all about the misdirection. You're going to watch Brian Lewerke drop back and make multiple fakes, and what that does is it gives Felton Davis time to get downfield and isolated one-on-one, and Lewerke gives him an opportunity, but this is just one heck of a catch by Felton Davis, his 8th touchdown of the season.
Starting to get a reputation as a tough catch maker. Felton Davis III from Brian Lewerke. And the issue even at 14 with 3:54 left in this first half. Boy, wet ball and all. Felton Davis III able to lay out and haul in a 33-yard touchdown from Brian Lewerke, and we're tied at 14.
Sometimes you got to change up those gloves. Not the same gloves when it starts raining. Can't have the normal plastic ones. Got to get some leather. Some guys go with no gloves at all.
It's a line drive kick. Barkley chasing it. He'll have to pick it up. Couldn't have gone much better for Michigan State. And Penn State dropped back at its own 6. That is the tight end, Matt Sokol, with a special teams tackle on Barkley.
Look at you, barely see Saquon Barkley's number, but Michigan State kickoff coverage, Sokol, their starting tight end, in there. It's a lot of effort getting downfield to pin Penn State back within their 10-yard line.
That was one of the big fears for Michigan State, kicking to Saquon Barkley, who's taken back 2 for touchdowns this year.
So tough, too, when you squib kick the ball like that. Or at least I'm assuming that was how it was meant to be kicked. So much more difficult to pick it up and then hold on to. That ball's wet. Becomes a liability.
So Penn State from its own 7-yard line. 3 and out on its first drive following the delay. They fake it to Barkley. McSorley steps up, looking for Johnson, but he can't hang on. A perfect strike from McSorley. Juwan Johnson couldn't pull it in against Khari Willis.
They run a lot of 7 routes or corner routes, and the reason being is some teams try to play them these 2 shell looks or 2 high looks, meaning they've got a couple of guys back there to defend the pass, and they can try to find that soft spot. McSorley, as you noted, Joe, perfectly thrown football, but Johnson couldn't come down with it.
See, Johnson has shed the gloves. He might second guess that after that. 2nd and 10. Barkley swallowed in the backfield. Raekwon Williams, who's already turned into a leader of this defensive line as a sophomore, was there with Kenny Willekes.
Willekes has really shown up for this Michigan State defense. But right now, to me, it's still both offensive lines on each team trying to get their bearings and their footing. Neither have done a good job being able to stop either defensive line and getting penetration and tackles for loss.
3rd down and 14 from the 3. Michigan State drops 7 into coverage. McSorley hits a crossing Hamilton, but it's out in front of him, and it's 4th down.
You talked about it before. It's wet out there. The ball's a little bit slick. Now Penn State's backed up, being forced to punt. A lot of pressure on those punters when they got their feet near the end line.
That one blocked a week ago. Spartan set to get good field position. Cody White stands in front of midfield. He goes with the gloves on.
If you're Michigan State, you got to go after this one.
Able to get it off. A lot of room for White, who can't make the catch. And it winds up deadening on that damp surface. Spartans will have it at the 45. Time for a game break. We say hello to Sam Farber.
Good to have you back, guys. Top 25 matchup, Stanford at Washington State, currently on Fox Business Network and Fox Sports Go. Wazoo's Luke Falk finds Renard Bell, takes a big hit, but hangs on. Cougars get the touchdown, and they lead Stanford 14-7 in the 2nd. Back to Joe and Brady.
Bryce Love back in that game, already rushed for a touchdown so far today. He's on our Heisman watch list as we're taking a gander at another Heisman Trophy contestant, if you will, contender, Saquon Barkley today. So 2 of the top running backs in the country.
Barkley so far today, 5 carries, -3 yards. Penn State has lamed in the passing game. Michigan State has it. Brings Stewart in motion. Lewerke fakes it to him and gives it to Scott, who is shut down promptly by Tyrell Chavis.
So much going on that last play. They faked the jet sweep. They faked the direct run. They almost make it look like they're throwing back to Darrell Stewart. Chavis was not fooled at all. Once he saw L.J. Scott kind of leak out into that area where typically running backs do for screens, he was all over it.
A loss of 3, 2nd and 13. Lewerke timed his scan, being chased, got rid of it to Sokol, his second reception, and he's close to a first down.
Michigan State with plenty of time as we get within the final 2 minutes of the first half. Still with all 3 timeouts, they can take their time and be patient.
Timeout of the half. It's a 30-second timeout.
Coming up at the half, stay tuned for Rob Stone, Dave Wannstedt, Robert Smith, State Farm halftime show. Ohio State on upset alert perhaps in Iowa City. First play of the game was a pick 6 thrown by J.T. Barrett. Penn State fans are wondering where was that last week. Georgia's tested his #1. Bedlam in Stillwater over on FS1.
Only the 2nd interception of the season for J.T. Barrett. He's been phenomenal since they lost to Oklahoma earlier this year. See Bedlam going on right now. You know that place is going to be madness there in Stillwater.
A very jumbled Big 12 title picture. 3rd down and 1 for the Spartans out of this timeout.
This is that power running personnel Michigan State likes to go with. 2 tight ends, 2 running backs, and that is including their fullback, Colin Lucas.
Scott behind Lucas. First down, Michigan State.
It seems like forever ago, but opening coin toss, Michigan State won and deferred to the second half, so they've got the opportunity to try to drive down here and get points, and then get points coming back out of halftime.
Working to throw on first down. He's flushed out of there by Chavis. Scott makes one man miss, but can't get away from Manny Bowen. Looks like the rain has started to fall again. For an update on what it's like down there, here's Bruce.
Guys, it's turned into like a full-on downpour in the last couple of minutes.